we have another Star Trek-y issue of SFX magazine has dropped, and once again, they have gifted us with some information. This, of course, being about Strange New World's second season. We have an interview with showrunner Akiva Goldsman, and there are lots of little nuggets in there, some of which, of course, we already knew before. Did you know there was going to be a crossover between Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks? But we have another couple of little bits that we can address. Actually, I tell you what, let's start with the Lower Decks crossover first, because we've talked about that a lot. We do know that, like, the hero portion of the episode, according to Goldsman, is going to be set in the Strange New World, in live action. So, yeah, whether this is, a holodeck program that Mariner and Boimler are running, we don't know. We don't know anything yet. We're looking forward to the next trailer.
Oh, God flippin' damn it, Paramount! Why the heck was this earlier on? We have now seen, thanks to the Canadian channel Crave releasing a very short trailer, we have seen the first image of Jack Quaid and Tawny Newsome as Boimler and Mariner in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It's like 1 second of footage. I'm very excited. I swear Paramount waits for us to do a news video. Like, Paramount, what have we ever done Oh, the Trilithium Down was probably the one. Okay, let's go back to Sean of the past, who was blissfully unaware of any of this.
There is a discussion of the challenge of marrying the two styles. Now, not just animation and live action, but of course the two styles of writing. Because you've got the writers on Strange New Worlds and you've got the writers on Lower Decks. And there is this discussion of how there is so much crossover between the two, and that Mike McMahon was deeply involved in this episode as well. One thing we do know about season 2 is there's gonna be more Gorn, and that's quite alright, because I like Strange New Worlds' version of the Gorn. They're bloody scary. And you can tell there's obviously still some distance to go before they become like the ones Kirk faced in Arena. I don't know, I think gone are those days. The zippers have got a bit better to hide. But I do like the exploration of where we're going with La'an's story and the Gorn. Are we ever going to get a resolution to that? I would argue probably not. Like, I think we might get a close on La'an's story, but obviously by the time of 2366 or 2266, 2267, the Gorn and the Federation are still not exactly best buddies. Goldsman has spoken a fair bit in the past and again here about how they're not being too slavish to canon. Now, I'm going to say, and I've said this before, I don't mind that. Now, not because I don't think canon needs to be respected. I quite enjoy when we get callbacks. I quite enjoy when we do respect canon. So it's not about erasing anything that's gone before. I want to be very clear about that. In fact, before I go on with this point, on that, Goldsman did say something twice in the article that actually I feel does need to be highlighted. And that is the fact that he initially states that where they are in the story of Pike and Number One and Spock is that they haven't got to where no man has gone before yet, which is true, they haven't. He also said, and we haven't got to the cage yet. On the first iterance of that, I thought, he must mean the menagerie. You know, the episode where it's the only two-part of the original series, they all get together and watch the cage. But when speaking about this in terms of, I mean, we know Number One, Una, is going to be back in season 2. She's in all the promotional material. There's even there's a blink and you'll miss it shot from her court-martial in the most recent teaser. So we know she's going to be back. And that could have been enough. But in the article, he does say that we know Number One is on the bridge in the cage, so we know she's going to be okay. Problem is, the cage happened about 5 years before this series is set. We know this because of Star Trek Discovery. In the episode, if memory serves, Vina and the Talosians appear to Pike. So that, to me, it's something that, you know, it needed calling it, because if you're using the fact that the cage is still to come as proof that Number One is going to be okay and be on the bridge, unfortunately, the fact that Number One is on the cage doesn't mean she's going to be okay in this season, because it happened a few years beforehand. Clearly this was, just a slip. But it's something that bears mention, because, again, as I say, if that is going to be the reason why we know she's going to be okay, it's been like, no we don't. No, we don't. Not based on that. That being as it is, there was also the discussion of, there's a discussion of how close the writers on Star Trek are. And he was kind of more addressing Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks in this portion of the article. And it's just, that's something that I feel I would like to see more of. We discussed recently the similarities between Picard's third season, how the fleet is sort of hijacked. We've also seen how the end of Prodigy's first season also saw a fleet hijacked. And I feel maybe a closer writing community could have made those two things a little bit less similar. I really want to take Goldsman at his word here and be like, there is much more of a writing community going on now. If there is, I'll be delighted. Particularly with, I think there has to be with Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks. I think there are too disparate and different to not have a crossover of writers. So that's great. I presume there's a good bit of crossover between Strange New Worlds and Discovery and the writing team on Starfleet Academy. We know Tony Newsom is there. So look, more collaboration. Absolutely. That's what I want going forward. I think there possibly hasn't been as much collaboration in the past. So hopefully that will change going forward. There was a nice shout out where Goldsman spoke about how he is very close to Michael Chabon, who of course was instrumental in getting Star Trek Picard up and running. At the moment, Chabon hasn't written for Strange New Worlds, but we do know from this article that season 3, the stories at least are broken for the 10 episodes of season 3. When you're breaking stories, there's actually a nice kind of shout out to, there's almost a longing for the 24, 26 episode seasons of the 90s. Now, I'm sure some of the people working behind the scenes would hear that and be like, no, I want to see my family. That was a lot in the 90s. Can we not do that again, please? Then, of course, you have the people who just want to tell more and more stories. And of course, you couldn't begrudge them that. There is, of course, the fact that at the moment, nothing's being written. So Strange New Worlds Season 3 is on delay for the moment, because while the stories have been broken, the ongoing Writers Guild of America strike means that nothing can be edited, nothing can be worked on. We know that some productions for some of the various studios have gone back to work without writers on set. As far as we know, that hasn't happened with Star Trek yet. So all we know for the moment is that Season 3 is happening. When is anyone's guess? On, again, the topic of canon, I can see Chris putting a big cannon over my head. On the topic of canon, one thing that Goldsman did speak to is how they can have fun working around it. For example, there was never any mention of Uhura on Pike's Enterprise. And yet, it's worked out lovely so far. There's nothing in her story that has in any way contradicted what we know. So that's worked out very nicely. Yes, we know from promotional material that James T. Kirk is going to appear in season 2. And yes, that does go against that one line that was spoken in the menagerie that says he met Pike once. But look, I don't mind. Now, that doesn't mean if you mind, you're wrong. I'm not saying that. I personally don't mind, as long as the story is good. If he's not there just for the sake of Kirk being there. Because there's other characters. Spock works. Spock was always on Pike's Enterprise. Number 1, I want to see more Ortegas, of course. We know she's got an episode coming up this season. Give us more Chapel. These are all fun characters. As long as the introduction of Kirk in season 2 doesn't kind of step on any of the other characters. Unnecessarily so. Other characters that Goldsman teased he'd love to see again would be Jesse James Keitel's Angel. He kind of touted this idea of maybe a team up with another TOS character who has appeared in Discovery and in one of the short treks. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, which I think would be hilarious. And of course, there's details about Lieutenant Pelia as well, being played by Carol Kane. And everything I've seen so far from people working on Strange New Worlds, it's been a love letter to Carol Kane. So I cannot wait to see what's coming. There's some more details in there that I haven't gone into, so check out SFX magazine, which is available May 17th. You'll be able to pick that up. We are now at 271,000 subscribers. It is possible I might soon be starting to do a little bit of a call to arms for 300,000, but we'll see how that goes. Everyone who watches, everyone who follows along, thank you so much. A reminder, June 15th is the premiere date for Strange New Worlds Season 2. Of course, we will be here, myself and Chris will be doing the ups and downs for you. So make sure that you tune in. Make sure you're looking after each other. We're going into the sunnier days now, depending on where you are in the world, of course. So yeah, let's reflect that sunshine back into each other. Remember, subscribe in all the places. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Trek Culture. Follow us on Instagram at Trek Culture YT. You can get myself at Sean Ferrick. You can get Chris at Chris Edit on both Twitter and Instagram. Everyone, lead with love. Be kind. Look after each other. Slava Ukraini. Everyone live long and prosper. And we will see you soon. Thanks.